Hey guys, welcome back to Interstage Window, our Saturday show, which is a conversation with friends. Almost always Landon is here, and Landon, of course, is here today. Say hi, Landon.
Hi, Landon. I miss you guys all so much. It's been like a month. I'm like, oh, I need my audience.
It's been forever, right? Because we did the
Been so
community day
long.
right before I left, and then I wasn't here, so of course we didn't stream.
Yes, it's been a restful and enjoyable
Mhm.
hiatus, but I'm so glad to be back. I'm so glad for my Saturdays to start looking normal again. And that
Yes.
means I get to see Karen's beautiful face. And Jane, my hair is blonder. Isn't it amazing, Jane?
Yeah, you can so tell you just recently got it done.
Yes,
It looks really bright on camera. It's like bling
thank
bling.
you. No, it is certainly. I'm like, oh, it's no longer the wonderful color of a mouse's fur like it has been for several months.
I mean, it was still blonde before. Like it was still blonde. It just wasn't like bright. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
All right. Welcome, Jane. I see you got first. Jane, I'm so happy to have you back. And I know you love our Sims 2 legacy that we've been doing, so I'm glad to see you here today. And I hear you so much, Landon, about missing streaming. I expressed that a lot on Thursday's stream because that's how I felt too. I mean, I didn't miss a lot of things about being home and the regular hanging out kind of thing, but streaming I definitely missed. Welcome, H Doc. Is that how you want us to say your name,
blog.
H Doc? I'm not sure. But anyways, welcome.
Yeah, no, I am. Well, it's been weird to think about that. We have been doing ESW for over a year now. We have officially hit the year mark of doing
Yes.
it consistently, basically every Saturday.
Almost, yeah,
It's
almost every Saturday.
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's like, oh, this has become a part of my routine, and it feels weird when I don't get my claps from the audience.
It's true.
Because I'm secretly Tinkerbell. It's fine.
So you guys hear that, right? So make giving Landon lots of attention on stream is what sustains her week to week. So you know
I'm
what
just
you have to do.
please. If there isn't someone out there not laughing at my joke, or if I don't get someone laughing at my jokes on that Saturday, I like literally wither and die. I'm like
Oh.
just just terrible.
Welcome the curriculum. I love seeing all the new faces here today. This is wonderful.
I
Happy to
love
have you on the
it.
stream. But before we go any further, and while I kind of get the game going, Landon, tell everybody what it is we're talking about today. Oh, thank you so much for the howl. Lunar is here too. Lunar, I
Lunar.
love you. Welcome.
We're talking about one of my favorite things to talk about, and that is villains and romance. And the reason why we, as a generation, as a people, as a fandom of multiple different kinds of fandoms, always seem to find ourselves shipping our protagonist and our antagonist.
Oh
uh,
yeah.
and why that tends to be, what is our history with villain romances, the pros, the cons, and the maybe societal reasons why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get
Mm-hmm.
into the all of it. So I want to hear a sound off if there are some favorite ships that you particularly love in the comments. Please go ahead and say them in the chat. Go ahead and let us know, because I'd love to hear what some ships that we love about villain romances are.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, and we're gonna share some of ours towards the end of the stream, right? But we'd love to hear about
Oh,
yours as well.
I will. Yes. Fuck yes.
Yes. All right. Oh, I'm so glad, curriculum. This game makes me really hyped too, and we love some villain romances. Oh my god. But we love to start out first before we really get into the topic, while everybody's kind of coming in and just hanging out, is favorite thing. So Landon, what was your favorite thing? Gosh, for this past month. Oh my god. It's been
There's been
forever.
so many things that happened. I think my favorite thing is my one of my dearest friends got married a couple Saturdays ago, and I got to play maid of honor, which gave me so much joy because it involved two of my favorite things, which is telling people what to do and also getting to make a speech. um And that it went down wonderful. Also true love and all of that too. But that particular playing Maid of Honor was just, it was so much fun. I loved
Meh
it so
on the
much.
true love part, right?
Nah on the
It's
true love.
okay.
Nah on the fact that they're going to be together forever. Like we all knew that. This is a 2-year wedding in the process. No, I worked damn hard and I made everybody cry. That's what's really important from this weekend, that weekend.
Can I get somebody with an exclamation Landon in the chat for that, making everybody cry? Jane, you know what to do. Hey, Katie, welcome, welcome.
Hey!
We have just started, so you haven't missed a thing.
You came in and you exclamation Landon. Oh, Katie, you're my favorite.
I love that. I love that.
Jane, you too. I see you.
Oh
But
my
yes,
word.
what about you, Karen? What is your favorite thing? You've done so many adventures.
Oh my God. So, like, there's too many favorite things to talk about, really. I just got back from a cruise. If you want to hear some of the fun stuff I did on that cruise, check out the VOD for my Thursday stream. It's up on my YouTube channel. We played Final Fantasy X, but we're in the end game part. So, it really was just kind of me talking about what's been up and mostly the cruise, right? And it was really fun. Oh my God, it was so nice to have a real vacation and not more like I've taken some trips and vacations and things during the pandemic, but not really. They were all obligations. Y'all know, I mean, there was really no traveling during the pandemic, but I'm vaccinated. Everybody in my family's vaccinated, so we took a real vacation. Oh, before I tell you my other favorite thing, we have a chance card for Landon. So, bored of watching sea lice do nothing hour after hour, Landon decides to take a short break and play solitaire on the office computer. She looks back after finishing the game and the sea lice are gone. Where could they have gone? More importantly, what is Landon gonna do? Tell his boss? They messed up the pronoun there. Anyway, tell his boss the truth or replace the sea lice and pretend nothing happened. What do you want to do, Landon? Do you want to tell the truth or replace?
Replace.
Okay, replace. Landon quickly takes half the sea lice from another tank and dumps them into the original tank, hoping no one will be the wiser. Later, when her boss examines the tank, he's appalled that all the fish inside are dead. It turns out that young sea lice and fully mature sea lice are very different. Forced to tell the truth, Landon reveals what she did. Her boss then promptly fires her. Landon, you got fired! Oh my God. I'm so glad that your husband has a good job. I guess you can take care of the kids. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. Well. This was the correct choice. It just so happens that the consequences were more severe than anticipated.
Well, it doesn't matter which one you choose necessarily. There's a bad option, a bad outcome, and a good option, no matter which one you choose. So, it's more for fun. The one you chose just happened to have the really bad negative option.
I think it's wonderful. I loved it.
Okay. All right. So anyway, what I was really going to say for my favorite thing is, I think I talked about this on stream before, but considering our topic today of villain romances, my for real favorite thing today is the Loki series. Okay. If y'all have not watched this, it's all out. It's on Disney Plus. It's wonderful. It's amazing. I freaking loved it. It is a villain protagonist story, right? Our hero is the antagonist. He's the one trying to change the status quo in the story, and there is a ship in it that is amazing, silky, it's canon, it's hot, it's good. The non-canon ship, Lokius, also super hot, also super good. Okay, we are in OT3 territory here. Super OT3 territory.
And one of them is the same person, so just different timelines. Spoilers.
Okay, we got some self-cessed, we got some gay stuff, we got some poly stuff. It's wonderful. Loki is wonderful.
Loki is the queer, non-binary prince that we needed.
Right? And of course, since he's being shipped with his alternate self is also non-binary, gender fluid person, right? Yes. So it's a they romance. It's wonderful. We love it.
We love it.
So yeah, if y'all have not watched Loki, go stream it. It's wonderful. It's one of the best MCU things that has come out ever in the past, 10 plus years that the MCU's been a thing. It's great.
Oh my God. I've watched the first couple episodes and it looks really good. I just am not in a place to sit down and watch TV series. So maybe I'm going on vacation. So maybe that'll have to be a thing that I do.
Oh yeah, you can watch it while you're on vacation. Loki and Croc Loki. Yes. Big
I've
fan.
seen memes of Croc Loki, and I love it so much.
He's the best. He's the best. Okay. We love him.
We love Croc Loki.
Yes, I love Croc Loki. He's awesome. Oh no, you burned your muffin, Tormund. Burned your muffin.
Goddamn.
Oh, she's
child.
sleepy. Okay. All right. So yeah,
All right.
that's my for real favorite thing this week. It's Loki. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really, really good.
Good to know. All right, we will put that on the thing, and maybe that'll come up in our in the rest of our topics.
Ooh.
All right, should we dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in. How do you want to get started?
I think that what really needs to be discussed before we talk about romances with villains is our love for villains, not our love like shipping love, but just why we really love villains. It's been a very long time since we talked about that on the show. That was one of our, I think it was our first episode.
Yeah, it was
Or
like
our second
episode, I think it was
episode.
like episode 3, but it was the first episode
Okay.
where we actually did the format correctly.
Yes.
Or something like that.
So it's been a very long time since we talked about our love for villains. So
Mhm.
let's fangirl on some villains for a second.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to give y'all my villain loving history. Okay. So I was a young Karen, a middle school aged Karen,
Just be a wee babe.
a tiny Karen, tinier than I am today.
Small. Small Karen.
Yes, and I read this series around that age called Dragonlance. And for you guys that don't know, Dragonlance is a book series that's basically like a D&D party going around, and they save their fantasy world of Corinne, right? And one of the characters in Dragonlance is named Raistlin Madre, right? And he's not really like the villain or anything. He is an evil aligned wizard, but he's part of the group, the protagonist of the story. He's in the main D&D group, right? He's not really a villain. Later on he has some villain parts. This is a huge series, okay? There's like a gajillion books. But at the beginning he's not really, right? So, what was really cool about this series that I thought was that it was like, okay, so somebody that's not necessarily always aligned with what the main party is doing, like morally or things like that, but he goes along with them for other reasons. He has a twin brother that's a goody two shoes, right? So he has other reasons to go along with them. But morally he's not the greatest guy. You know, he's kind of just out for himself. That's how he is. And it was the first thing that I had ever read where you really got a glimpse at why a character might do certain villainous things, right? Because I was still very young, right? I was still very young, so I just hadn't read a lot of stuff where that happened. And he's a fan favorite. If you've read these books, then he's probably your favorite too. But he is absolutely amazing. I don't want to spoil too much because they're really good books and they're really character driven, and I think you all should read them. But basically, he is the epitome of like a anti-hero type of character.
Ooh.
He's not a good guy, but he does help end up saving the world, right? So I just absolutely fell in love with this character. I thought he was amazing. By the way, he never really gets a real canon ship, but the main fandom ship for him is with his twin brother. So, you know, that's how that all started as well. So I was really fascinated with this character, and all my friends are reading Dragonlance too, and they were, of course, very fascinated with this character because that's what's up. And so that was kind of the first one. After that, I kind of kept going. I was also reading Harry Potter. I had started Harry Potter much earlier, but you know, in the first couple of books, you really don't get to know much about the villains except for Draco. Draco is really the only one that you know in the first couple of books, and I was kind of, I wasn't really super taken with Draco. Draco's more Landon's type, right?
I was about to be like, that only makes one of us.
Yeah, but as you get into the later books and you start learning about like how the Death Eaters work, and Bellatrix in particular, and everything that happens with the Black Sisters, I became absolutely enamored with the Blacks, right? With Bella, and especially with Andromeda and what she goes through and how she is somehow raised in that environment. and it's implied that she's in Slytherin house and everything, and then she still ends up being able to work against that. I thought that was amazing. And
Yeah.
like what it means for Narcissus and with Sissy, and how she is, you know, allied with the Death Eaters and with that awful side, but she still doesn't want her son to go down that path, right? And various other things around that. Like I think Sirius is a fascinating character, etc., etc., etc. Right? Y'all get the idea. So when it comes to Harry Potter, that was like something that I was super taken with, was the Death Eaters and the concept of the Death Eaters, and what it meant to dig into some of those characters. Now, Harry Potter is, of course, way more black and white than Dragonlance is. So I had to get a lot of this fuel from the fandom, but luckily the Harry Potter fandom is massive. And you can find whatever
Magical.
you want. Yes, you can find whatever you want about whoever you want. So, and one of my favorite things in Harry Potter, as you guys know, and we'll talk about a little bit later, is Harry Potter has a lot of characters that all you ever get is their names and maybe one or two facts about them, and nothing else. And one of my favorites is to take those characters and expand on them, right, in the fandom sense. And there is a plethora of Death Eater characters that you can do that with, because J.K. Rowling don't explain her villains; they're just evil. So
I feel like you have personal experience with this, Karen.
I mean, maybe. We'll talk about that in a second. And of course, also in addition to Death Eaters, I was always super taken with the villains in Disney movies. You know, I was all here for Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. I think he's an excellent character. I mean, that doesn't mean he's a good guy. I just think he's an excellent character, right? I love Ursula and the Little Mermaid. I love Scar in The Lion King. You know, all those Disney Renaissance villains. They were always like my favorites, and I was super taken with them. Like that was me. Like I was the kid that's like, oh, do you like Simba or Nala? And I'm like, I like Scar.
You're so good.
Yeah. Jafar. Yes, exactly. I'm wearing my Jafar shirt today. This is an artist that has a Disney villain breakfast cereal series of
Oh,
art, and
that's
this
so
is,
cool.
yeah, and this is the Jafar one.
Jafar.
Gaston's an absolute himbo. Agree. Hard agree.
I slight disagree because he doesn't treat women well enough to be a himbo.
You know
However,
what?
he paved the way for characters like Kronk, who is technically a Disney villain. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he is an absolute himbo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gaston walked so Kronk could run.
Yes, no, honestly, that's how it worked. They were like,
Yep.
oh, people really like this character, even though we wrote him to be an asshole. Maybe we should write one that talks to squirrels.
And everybody loves Kronk. He's wonderful.
The best.
So that's my story of like the villain characters that I grew up with, that I loved, and it all started around middle school age and just kind of grew from there, and it has never stopped. I still am very interested in most things that I read or watch in especially if I'm stepping into the fandom of something, of like, what's the fandom around the villain character, right? Like that captivates me in a way that the protagonists often don't, or the hero characters often don't.
They do.
So, so that's my story. Landon, what about you? What's your villain character loving story?
Very similar. I think that the small difference is that especially in middle school when I became an avid Harry Potter fan, I'm a Slytherin, and the recognition of Slytherin characters that we get, as we've talked about on stream before, is that they are evil children. They are children who are going to become evil and terrible human beings, and everyone who is evil is Slytherin. And so someone who identifies as a Slytherin, I then, of course, was like, well, if I'm a Slytherin, I must be evil. So let me just obsess about all the evil characters. And there was a certain like being like, especially with Draco Malfoy, but also, you know, Theodore Nott and Blaise Zabini and the ones in school, Pansy Parkinson, the ones in school with Harry. I really found like an interesting connection to, because again, we don't get much information, but the fandom then makes them alive.
Hmm.
And being able to enjoy like the fandom interpretations of these people that are supposed to be evil that I aligned myself with because I was similar to what I viewed these characters would be, was really, really cool. And I think that that gave me a different perspective on villains when looking at media in general. So that really set me up for success as far as being like, go team villain. Um,
Yeah, Slytherin's the bad boy house. Curriculum, if you're interested, we have a whole episode. It's on my YouTube channel. Where we broke down some of the issues and interesting things in regards to the Harry Potter houses, and we talk mostly about Slytherin because that's really where the meat is in that discussion.
but absolutely, it was like, oh, I'm a bad boy. Woohoo. That's exactly who I am, as I'm smiley and bubbly, and I was a little goth. It's fine. And then also at the same time with Disney, I loved the Disney villains. Jafar, I think, is still one of the most fascinating and amazing Disney characters. Scar as well. They're basically the same character, but love them both. And I think what I discovered is that how the Disney algorithm works is that Disney is teaching kids that people are inherently good, which is a great lesson to learn. But because of that, there doesn't need to be much backstory when it comes to its protagonist and its good side characters. They just kind of exist and they're funny and they're good and they're on the good side. The villains need reasoning to be bad. And that has developed more and more as Disney has aged. When we get like Frozen, where we get a whole backstory with Hans, and a bunch of other like antagonists get backstories. You know, Scar is jealous, Jafar is jealous, and because of that, I always felt that those characters were better explained and defined. And because of the attention of being like, okay, I have to actively think, why is this character evil? When you never put in that work as for why is this character good, that translated as better developed, and I enjoy incredibly developed characters. So that drew me into the villains. And then I discovered and learned about DC comic villains and how incredibly like DC takes that step further, where they do like develop the protagonist, particularly Batman, but all of his villains are also like stand for something, and none of them are evil for the sake of being evil. And that depth into that character and mindset and trying to understand, I just think is fascinating. So that made me fall in love with villains even more.
Yeah.
And
Batman
that's,
has the greatest rogues gallery, does it
oh,
not?
fucking yes. And it's a variety. Like that was one of the reasons I don't particularly like Superman, because Superman is pretty standard, whereas like good is good, bad is bad, and there's no reasoning for these things other than good is good and bad is bad. But as Batman has developed and their villains have developed, there is reasoning behind everything. And all of them are incredibly unique. It isn't formula. It's just like, hey, there is something that made me this way. Which I think is as close to real life as you can get, as far as like people aren't inherently bad. They make choices that are for the best of them. And just because you're on the opposite side of that, like it makes it seem real. And I love that.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Ty, I do love this line. Ty has a good comment about Guardians of the Galaxy. I think the best, most unique motivation for doing something good comes from Guardians of the Galaxy, where the motivation for wanting to save the galaxy is because I'm one of the idiots who lives in it. I did love that line because I feel like in a lot of stuff, that is very much implied but never stated, and so you just feel like why, because we all would love, if given the opportunity, to be able to help out the world, but a lot of us aren't given that opportunity, right? And I do think most people would react as like, well, let me try to do the right thing because I have the opportunity to do the right thing. But in a lot of fiction, it's not really explained or stated. It's just assumed that this is the natural state.
Well, and also those protagonists within fiction are also going above and beyond what I think the normal human would do.
Yeah,
because I think that, yes, when given the chance of save the world, not save the world, I think it also, we have to take into concept of how much sacrifice that requires. And most protagonists within fiction are willing to sacrifice everything.
Yeah, most
everything.
people aren't.
Which again is something that we will bring up later as far as villains and like why people love them so much too, is because villains, a lot of the time with romances, villains are willing to risk everything except for what they believe is right, and oftentimes a person like is willing to like burn down the world for burn down the whole world to save one person, and fuck morals and fuck society going to do that thing. So that's another part of it too, is that that's the difference. Anyway, that was a tangent.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean that's what made me really fall in love with villains.
I love that.
And then I came across RP, and even though I had been writing villainous characters in my own writing, I finally had the opportunity to write a villain.
Mhm. And it's
Which
different when you're writing solo stuff, right? The villain
oh
is
yeah,
just one of many characters. When you're role playing and you role play a villain, it's like that's what you're really focused on.
and it changed my life for multiple reasons, but one because you and I got so close because we started doing Rabby.
Yes. Okay. So we have talked about this before on stream, but just because it's super relevant here, I'd like to take a moment to explain kind of a little bit more about how Landon and I met. So we met actually in a once upon a time role play, right? And we were friends there, but it wasn't like we weren't like super super close, right? We were kind of close, but not super close. Your sim wants to get a job again. That's
Oh
good.
no, that's good. She took some time off, and then she's like, these kids are fucking driving me crazy.
After only one night, she can't handle it.
Being a single mom
um,
is hard, y'all. And she thought I meant stay-at-home mom. I said single mom because I want someone to kill Malcolm. But being a stay-at-home mom is hard, y'all. It's a real job. Anyway.
Yes. All right. So we met in that Once Upon a Time role play, but pretty soon after that, a friend of ours opened up a Harry Potter role play. And this is where we really got close because we started shipping together. Because Landon decided that she wanted to play Sebastian Lestrange, which is one of the kind of name-only Death Eater characters that you have in Harry Potter, right? One of the Death Eater characters, he's not super developed. He gets like a line or two. That's it. That's all you get. He's Rodolphus's brother. That's the whole story. And so Landon was like, I want that.
That one
Yes.
seems like good enough.
So then she had picked out face claims for them, which were basically the Clara line. So if you have watched Vampire Diaries, then you know Caroline as the ship with Klaus and Caroline. She's like, I need somebody to play the Caroline face claim. And I said, hi, I will do this. This sounds great.
Yeah, I do remember. I was like, have you ever watched Vampire Diaries? Do you know what Claraline is? No, you should, because here's a perfect face. Please ship with me.
And I said, sure, of course. Like, Landon explained to me the dynamic, and I was like, yep, that's actually what got me to watch Vampire Diaries, by the way. I think it was in the show was in season 3 at that point, and I had only ever seen, like, I'd seen most of season 1, but then I hadn't really kept up with it, so that's what really got me to watch it and get invested. Right. Katie, I so see that you did the Kill a Sim. Don't worry then. We will try to kill Malcolm this stream. So then Landon will be a single mom, and I'm so glad she wants to get a job again. Because that would really suck if we killed Malcolm off and nobody was there to take care of the kids. It'd be pretty short legacy, right?
I have been saying to Karen, I'm like, I hope we kill off the husband.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kill him off in a little bit of a brutal way, but also in a kind of simple way. Because I just don't want things to be too complicated for this. No, I don't need a foundation. I just need walls.
Put him in a box.
Yes, we're gonna put him in a box and starve him. Oh no, insufficient funds.
The trust fund ran out so quickly that we couldn't even afford to.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of money. We don't have enough for a door. Okay, well, we'll have to wait till we get some more money because we need a door on our box. And then we'll put him in the box and we'll kill him. Murder on a budget, that's right.
Um,
Oh.
but yeah, we went in with the intention of writing a villainous ship
Mhm.
with truly two very fucked up individuals.
Mhm.
And wanted to write a happy-ish story involving them.
Yeah.
Uh
Well, happy for them.
well, yeah, no, and happy in general. I mean, they found each other and fell in love, and just because she was the object of his serial killer tendencies, didn't have to get in the way of that.
Mhm. Yeah. Basically the plot was here we're gonna use his aspiration points to get us some money. Basically, the plot the plot was essentially like Sebastian was like a really bad guy already. Abby had bad guy tendencies, and Sebastian was going to encourage such tendencies.
I
He
think
was
she was
gonna
alive long enough for that.
yeah, she was like, I've decided I do want to be a Death Eater. I care about this cause. And Sebastian said, that's wonderful. Would you like help with on that path? And that was the whole ship.
No, it was wonderful. And sorry, the chat is being funny.
Yeah,
No,
no, y'all are being hilarious today. Thank you so much.
uh, that was the moment that I was like, oh, I will forever write villains, and I will forever ship with them because
Mhm.
it's fantastic. It's fun. It's dynamic. And I think and I think that that's a good transition to talk about like why it's so fun. Why is it so different to ship with a villain versus doing a different kind of ship? No
Mhm.
matter what that villain ship is, no matter if it's a redemption arc, no matter if it's a making one of the characters worse or more villainous, such as like our ship was, even if it's like a neutral where no one really changes. Why
Yeah.
is it that shipping with a villainous character is so different than just a regular traditional ship?
Yeah, and it's kind of like, we love villains so much and they're always having so much fun. So another way to ask the question I think is like, why are villains always the ones having so much fun? And I see you, Cookie. Thank you so much for the lurk and the host. I really appreciate you. Yeah, so why are villains so much fun? Well, this is what I think, right? This is why I think villains are so much fun. And it goes back to the Hays Code. So I'm going to give a little introduction on the Hays Code here. Most of y'all have probably heard of it before, but I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So what is the Hays Code?
And if you
So
haven't,
the
dropping a link.
Yes, thank you. So if y'all want to read more than what I say today, here's the Wikipedia page. You can go read more about it. So what the Hays Code was at this time that the Hays Code started, there was a bunch of states that were introducing legislation to censor movies, right? Politicians had decided that movies were the reason for all of our debauchery, right? They were the reason that everybody was, into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's these goddamn movies. And so they were introducing legislation. It's like 20 something states, like a lot, like not nothing, right? So Hollywood didn't necessarily want this. This wasn't like something that they just decided on their own, but it was something that they were responding to. Like they were responding to this pressure, and they had decided that due to this pressure, they needed to take it into their own hands. Like they decided, okay, they're going to legislate us into censorship. We need to take control and do the censorship ourselves because if we let them legislate it, it's going to be 10 times worse. Right? So they hired this consultant, which is why it's called the Hays Code, right? That was his name. So why are you sneaking in there when they're about to do the do, Tormund? Get out. Go eat your cereal.
You
Anyways.
know, you know who the villainous kid is.
So they hired this guy, Hayes, right, that was going to help them be not so debaucherous. And Hayes helped Hollywood develop this code that was a whole bunch of stuff that they were going to self censor on to avoid being legislated into censorship, right? So there's like 11 things that you can't have in movies, and then a whole bunch of things that you can only have if you portray it as like a bad thing. Tormund, stop going in there. My freaking God.
Oh, he
Ah.
is a serial killer waiting to happen.
They're just trying to have some adult time. Tormund, God.
But mommy, entertain me.
No. So basically that's what the Hays Code is. So the thing that I want everybody to understand is that Hollywood wasn't like, oh my gosh, sex is bad, let's put in the Hays Code, right? It was direct pressure from politicians to do this. They didn't just come up with this on their own, okay? So I think that's something that people miss a lot of times when talking about the Hays Code. So that being said, because this list is freaking wild, Landon, I would love if you could read those 11 things to us that, per the Hays Code, are not allowed in movies. Now, by the way, the Hays Code doesn't exist today, but this is what it was during that time.
Let me put on my operator voice. Hold on.
Okay.
Pointed profanity by either title or lip. This includes words such as God, Lord, Jesus, Christ, unless they are to be used relevantly in connection to the proper religious ceremonies. Hell, son of a bitch, damn, and God, or any other profane and vulgar expressions, however it may be spelled. Let it be known that that second God was spelled Gawd.
You can't
That's
say
the
Gawd.
first one. Any suggestion or actual nudity, in fact or in silhouette, and any litigious notice. Thank you.
Oh no, licentious probably. It's probably
Licentious.
licentious.
Thank you. Any licentious notice, therefore, of the characters in the picture. Bodies are bad. You should be shamed. Anyway.
That's not that last part. It doesn't say that, but that's what it implies.
The illegal traffic in drugs. I have no comment to that one. Any inference of sexual perversion, which means anything but missionary. I am trying to make jokes and my words aren't coming out. The most important, white slavery. Other forms of slavery.
Can we pause here? This is like wild to me. So basically what they're saying is like, you can depict slavery. That's cool. So long as the victims aren't white. If the victims are white, you cannot depict this. What? Like what? Why? This is so stupid. Anyways, Hollywood's racist. This is what this reveals. Anyway, go on.
It's the sixth one is misandernation, which is the marriage of people who are of different races. So white people and black people cannot touch or marry on TV because then it would be very bad. 7, sex hygiene and venereal diseases, because let's not talk about the things that actually happen to our bodies so that people feel shame about their bodies. Pointing back to number 1. 8, scenes of actual childbirth, in fact or in silhouette. 9, children's sex organs. 10, ridicule of the clergy. And 11, willfully offensive to any nation, race, or creed. And those are just the ones that are straight up not allowed. There are 25 other things that should not be talked about. And we can mention the highlights of those if we would like.
Yeah, just pick out a couple. We don't need to read all 25. Y'all will get the idea after hearing a few of them.
Any use of firearms, theft, robbery, safecracking, or dynamite of trains, mines, buildings, etc. Sympathy for criminals. Attitude towards public characters and institutions. First night scenes. Men and women in bed together. Deliberate seduction of girls, which is so strange to say seduction of girls instead of women, but that's fine. The institution of marriage. And titles and scenes having to do with law enforcement or anything enforcing laws. excessive or lustful kissing, particularly when one character or the other one is heavy.
Heavy means criminal.
But I needed to do that quote. So those were the highlights.
Yeah, so you can kind of get the idea, right? What the effect this ends up having is that any character that's allowed to do anything fun is going to be a villain, because the only way you're allowed to do any sex, drugs, or rock and roll is if you're a bad guy. Because all of these things, like, they're allowed, but only if it's clear in the movie that these are like bad things that you're not supposed to do, right? So that's the effect. The effect ends up being that only villains get to do anything fun.
Yeah. That and that if you behave in any of these particular ways, then you are a bad person, and again, let the villains get to do the fun things. So even though that this no longer exists within our society, the ramifications and the echoes of it do.
Mm-hmm.
Because things like hitting on, women, deliberate seduction of girls, um there are different ways that this is portrayed as villainous versus good, right? But like it is painted in that light,
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, that nice guy who's walking you home that doesn't seem outwardly hitting on you is the good guy, but the guy calling from across the bar is the bad guy, when both of
Mm-hmm.
these characters might not have like good intentions. One is a nice guy, the other isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that one that's calling out from across the bar that's the evil guy.
Right. From the movie code, right? That doesn't pan out that way in real life a lot of times, but
Yeah.
in the movies that's how it is. By the way, they had education track available for Landon, and that's her lifetime want. So we're in the education track now for Landon's career.
And you know what? It actually turns out that replacing and lying about those fish were the best thing to ever happen to her. Pursue exactly what
Right?
she wants to do.
Exactly. So it was good. It was a good thing. Oh
But yes,
gosh.
no, childbirth, anything like that. It's really fascinating to see what was
Yeah.
considered uh no go.
So really, a lot of women's experiences are basically not allowed to be portrayed, or not allowed to be portrayed in certain ways. And this kind of bleeds over, right? Like, it doesn't say it in the Hays Code. Like, it doesn't say no gay stuff. However, um, everything that it does say, the result ends up being that nothing nothing important for the girls, the gays, or the theys, right? Like, it makes everything much more in line with patriarchal values when you start censoring the types of things that the Hays Code censors. And we still see so much of that today. We still see so much of that today. Like, just now in the past, I don't know, half a decade or so, that there's a lot more media that depicts things that are important, or part of life for the queer community. And there's a reason why for the longest time there was no depictions of that. It's not because queer people weren't making movies. It's because there was pressure to only include those experiences for villain characters. And so you end up with all of these like queer coded villains, because that's the only chance that a lot of creatives got to put queer people into their movies. And
But
for
then
better or for worse, Hollywood movies are our main source of entertainment in this country. They are.
but then that inherently also proves a bad point. Like, absolutely, you want representation, and so the opportunity to do it, especially if you're a queer person, the opportunity to do it is better than no opportunity at all. But then if
Mm-hmm.
every single person or every single villain is queer coded, society wise, that tells us that being queer is then inherently villainous or evil,
Mm-hmm.
which then plays into that whole thing as well. And then it's like, okay, all the representation we ever have is villains, and that means that you're bad for being queer.
Yeah, and it's awful. Like, that's an awful message to send, right? But that's what ends up happening.
Absolutely.
Um, And
Yeah.
so basically, we can blame a lot of the stuff that we still suffer with in regards to Hollywood media and things of that nature. We can blame it on conservative politicians, just like most of the ills of the modern world. Because that's what it traces back to.
Oh,
So
politics.
I think at this point probably let's talk about a little bit about that. What is queer coding, like, from your perspective, Landon? What does that mean?
Okay, so queer coding is basically things and stereotypes that have to do with being queer. So being flamboyant, for men being flamboyant
And feminine,
or
probably.
and feminine, or wearing, or emotional in general. So not just flamboyancy, but also heavy in emotion.
Hmm.
Wearing certain outfits, having certain dramatic flair. I'm thinking particularly of Hades from Hercules right now.
Oh
But you can
yeah.
also do Jafar from Aladdin. There's so much queer coding in all of this.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
he's the gayest straight man, like, that I've ever seen.
yeah, Hades is straight up gay in Hercules. No one can bother me with that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for real. There is no
like
there is no hetero going on there.
the fact that, like, and this is a separate thing, but I just need to make this point. Um, that the fact that Ursula, which is one of the few female villains we have in Disney, at least
Hmm.
in the Renaissance age,
Yeah.
uh, is based off of a drag performer
Hmm.
who is a gay man. So the woman character is based off of a gay man dressing as a woman.
Hmm.
But is the villain within the story. Is There's just so many layers there. So queer coding is basically being like, oh, here are all these things that are stereotypically within queer context or gay or anything like that, and we are going to present it as not coming out as gay. Like, we are
Hmm.
presenting it as straight, we are presenting it as normal, but it is there enough for people to make connections to and understand what is happening.
Yep. So basically what it is that, like, if you are part of the LGBT community, then oh, that person's probably a little LGB or T, right? And if you're not, then you probably don't notice, right? That's what queer coding is. And it's deliberate, right? So when we say something is coded, what we're saying is that the author made this deliberate choice. Like, you can't accidentally code something. So I want to make that clear, because I feel like the internet misuses a lot of these terms, and they'll be like, oh, this character's queer code. And it's like, but if the author did not intend that, then no, they're not. So that's what queer coding is. And there's so many Disney villains that are definitely queer coded. Like, Ty mentioned Scar. Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely
Scar,
queer coded.
Scar, Hades, and Jafar are typically, and Ursula, I would say, are
Mhm.
the most Disney queer coded that there are. But so is the Joker from Batman.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so is the Joker. I'm trying to think of others. There's just so many.
Mhm.
Also, if a man has an obsession with another man, there's a little bit of queer coding going on there.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. The author's putting in a little bit of that. All right. So Malcolm is in his box. So we'll see what happens. um, Ty asks, does this happen? This character shows X trait, which is associated with Y stereotype. Therefore, people who are Y are bad. So in isolation, no. So you can't take one character in isolation and be like, oh, they do this, and this character's effect on society is XYZ. Okay, these things that we're talking about are in mass. Like, we can give you examples, right, of queer coding in Disney villains, but that doesn't mean that the people that are working for Disney caused this problem, or individually did this, or these individual characters did it, right? It's a trend throughout lots of pieces of media that says something about how we as a society feel. Okay, so when we talk about this stuff, we're not saying, oh, the media caused this. We're saying the media reflects this feeling that society already has and contributes to it, and progresses it by repeating these tropes over and over and over and over and over. Does that
And
make sense? I hope that makes sense.
yeah, and at several different levels. Like we are talking about childhood levels, like with Disney, but these expand beyond that too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just like even Thor Ragnarok, um, or Ragnarok, sorry, the game master, who is not the main protagonist, the main antagonist, but is certainly one that is holding Thor captive, played by Jeff Goldblum, isn't queer within canon within the movie, but he has all of the mannerisms and all of the thoughts of that. Like, so
Oh
that's
yeah.
like even a step up from, it's not just Disney movies. It's not just things that it is every single movie, not every single, but several movies throughout society. Villains are portrayed as eccentric and, you know, just very queer coded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the point of bringing this up is because, well, why do you think women love the villains and they love villain romances? It's because whenever we are watching something and we can really identify with what the character is going through, like you can a lot of times with villains, right? You end up with this situation where that's who you're identifying with, that's who you want to see the romances with. So that really applies to like when Landon was sharing her story, and the villains were often more developed characters, so that's what she was interested in, right? Like for those of you guys that don't know, we have an Interstage Window episode on this where I talk about some struggles that I've had with my gender, right? So, of course, I look at other characters that are struggling with their gender. I identify with that, right? For those of y'all that don't know, that are new to the show, Landon, not straight. So, you know, she sees the
I
gay
believe
characters and she identifies with that, right?
I believe I was like, I described it to someone that I was like, my sexuality slash gender identity is that equivalent to a human shrug.
And the more time goes on, the more it kind of feels like that, doesn't it? Tier, I want to answer a question that you asked a little while ago. Are you queer studies scholars? No, we are both actually educators, different kinds of educators, but that's our job. Landon was an English major though, and so she does actually have some training on this. I don't.
Yep.
I'm just a loser that thinks way too hard about the stuff that I read, and I've spent my entire life in fandom. So I am. I guess you could say what's like the hedge witch? What's like saying a like you say a hedge witch, but for a scholar, for a queer studies scholar? I don't know. I'm that,
Feminist.
whatever that is. No,
Feminist.
no one's ever taught me how to do this. I just watch a lot of and read a lot of stuff.
And yeah, to clarify that too, I was an English major with my minor was in, if I had a traditional minor, would have been in gender and queer studies
Mm-hmm,
as far as
mm-hmm.
literature goes. So I
Yeah.
do have
So
quite a bit of experience about this kind of stuff.
so Landon, it actually kind of is. I'm just a hedge witch. I'm
You're
just the
just the
talent
hedge
here. I'm
witch
just
of feminism.
I'm just here to look pretty. I'm really an educator. I don't know anything. I just know how to take information other people are telling me and regurgitate it back to you guys.
All right, so Ty, that is a great question. Do people genuinely have thought process of Ryan from High School Musical, Scar and Jafar are camp, and because of that they're bad guys, therefore anyone who is camp or effeminate are bad guys? That is not the conscious thought process at all. But like most things in society, we learn from like subconscious things. We learn from things that we see in media and the way that people are treated and all of these things. And we don't know that we're taking in these thoughts until we are challenged with them.
Mm-hmm.
So so no one's sitting there and being like, oh my gosh, Jafar wears a funny hat and has an obsession with a man, and
Mm-hmm.
is eccentric and all of these things and all these things that are like queer coded. Therefore he must be bad. It's more like I see enough of these types of characters to know that, hey, I meet someone who is Jafar like. I then dislike that, and then I discover that the people that I'm meeting are that Jafar like might be within the LGBTQ community.
Yeah,
Like
and
it's
it's even more insidious than that. Like a lot of times
absolutely
it starts like from what you learn from your parents and your peers growing up. So like maybe your dad makes a lot of anti-gay jokes. He thinks that's really funny, right? And that's where it really starts. And looking at Jafar in Aladdin, that just, you know, encourages those same thoughts. Like, watching Jafar in Aladdin doesn't put those thoughts there for people in vast majority of situations. It's they've already learned these things and then they see it reinforced in the, you know, TV show or movie or book or whatever that they're consuming.
Yeah, and to make it not as big systemically, we can also apply this to things like video gamers. Video gamers are portrayed one way within media, therefore there is an assumption that that is what video gaming looks like, is someone who never sees the light, who's always eating junk food, who never sleeps, who has unhealthy habits, who does all these things, when we all like to play video games once in a while and don't have that stereotype around us.
Yeah.
Like that's also like that's also a way that it works the same way.
But like, you're more likely to believe that, oh, all video gamers are like that if you happen to know one video gamer like that growing up, and then you go see that in media, and then it's really easy for your brain to say like, oh, well, they're all like that because the one example I have definitely is like that, and this movie portrays it like that too. Let me put that all together, right? But like, it doesn't start with the movie. Like, that's the point. Like, it doesn't start with the piece of media where you found it. Even if you think you learned it from there, you didn't, right? It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a huge, yeah, it's a system. I mean, it's just part of the systems that we have created. Racism exists a very similar way too, within our society. So
Yep.
Which is also like villains. There are several villains that are also race coded.
Yeah.
And that have like a lot of, the biggest example that I found in the research that I saw was like from the Jungle Book, that there is like this idea that there is a song within the Jungle Book where the main protagonist is an ape who wants to copy Mowgli, who is a human, so that he can then take over the humans. And there are a bunch of stereotypes, not only how this villain is drawn, but also how the villain acts, that was portrayed very similarly to how it was assumed in stereotypes that Black people act, wanting to be white. And like this happens quite a bit with villains as well. Scar is coded. Jafar as well follows a lot of Arab stereotypes, whereas not a lot of other characters in the Aladdin movie does. It's a lot. So that's also another thing to put on this too, is there's also racism tied to our villains, even if the villains are portrayed as white.
Yep. So when we talked about queer coding, it's kind of like, well, so the villains are there for the girls, the gays, and the theys. Guess what? The villains are there for the POC too, right? Because that is a huge part of the villains as well. And again, the Hays Code never says, you know, racism's good, y'all, let's do that. But it says things like white slavery is not allowed to be portrayed, but Black slavery is.
Yeah.
Huh. Strange, right? So you end up with this situation. Where anybody that is not part of the status quo or doesn't see themselves as part of the status quo in the world is likely to identify with the villain characters more than they are likely to identify with the hero characters. So I know that's how it happened for me. I'm sure for Landon that's how it happened too, based on what we had said for our interests. You know, you can kind of see like how this would happen, right? And how this ends up happening to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ty, that's what I meant, orangutan. And the character is race coded to be Black. Like there is a lot of similarities between how he is drawn and portrayed, and how back in the, I want to say that was in the 70s, 60s.
That was long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Were portrayed as well. So there are similarities there, and it's just another example of how villains can be coded.
Yeah, and it's subtle, right? Yeah. And you can say, what does that have to do with race? Well, that's what they want you to say, right? The people that put this coding in, they know that there's plausible deniability there, right? And so,
sorry.
Oh no, you're good. And so for a lot of these, it's easy to say like, oh no, they're not supposed to be, this race or that race, or they're not necessarily supposed to be gay or whatever. But that's not always the case. And again, like these are just examples. You have to look at these things in mass over time,
And
right?
there, yeah, and there is something that is happening right now. So earlier this year, the movie Luca came out, which is I haven't seen it. I'm not gonna lie, so I might get some details wrong. But I believe the story is about a young boy who meets another boy and wants to be their friends, but has to keep it a secret. And there's also another big secret that's going on, and it is a metaphor for coming out and being gay. And Disney straight up said it is not. Even though their quotes and their directors are being like, oh, if you interpret it that way, that's great, but that's not what the movie is about. But it is. Like, there's serious conversations about having to sit down and be like, I am this way and I'm scared about being this way. Like, there's a whole coming out arc, there's everything, and the only thing that is missing from this story is Luca basically being like, I'm in love with my best friend who is a boy.
I haven't
So
seen this. I haven't seen this movie either, so
yeah,
I don't
it's
know. But I have
just,
seen the discourse. I have seen
yeah.
the discourse.
And so like this is still happening. I know that doesn't have to do about villains, but the queer coding of things still exists.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a thing that was like in the Disney Renaissance. You can, if you want to watch movies and look out like with this filter in mind, you will find the characters that are queer coded because they happen quite a bit.
Yeah, and remember, a movie is not made by one person. There's auteur theory. I don't think it's real. Sorry. If you have studied film and you're like, yeah, auteur theory, no, sorry, I disagree. Movies are made by committee, right? They're made by a group of
Yeah.
people. And so like Disney can say whatever they want about what the intention is, but they don't know the minds of the hundreds of people who touched that script, who touched the animations, who touched the storyboards, who touched everything that went into that movie, right? So in that way, it's kind of like, well, they can say that, but it's kind of hard to just accept it once you understand what it means to watch a movie or to read a book or something with queer theory in mind,
Yeah.
right?
It's just one of those things where until you put on that lens, you don't think about it, which is
Mm-hmm.
great for some people to not have to do that. But again, it is like, oh, that this is some people's everydays, that they are looking desperately for these things that they find and resonate within themselves, and then when all they have to see from that is the villains within these stories, it does not help.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It makes you either align with the villains or feel pretty shitty about yourself,
Yep. For
which
sure.
tends to be how it is. So, all right, should we get back on track and start talking
Yes.
about, like, now that we've discussed like villains in depth and their coding, shall we talk about the why we ship with villains?
Yeah. So why? So what's the main? So we've talked about a lot of like talked around this a lot, but like why? Why do you want to ship with villains? Why not just ship with the good guys, with the heroes? Are you a bad guy, Landon?
Yes. I am queer coded enough that I'm a bad guy. uh, no, I am, because they hot. Well, we'll talk about that too. Like, why, if you don't want us shipping with your villains, why make them so attractive? God damn it. um, but no, I think why do I like it? Well, there's a lot of reasons. The first one that comes to mind is it's taboo, so therefore it's
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
But another huge one is that I find that when placed, the stereotypical, we'll talk about Shadow and Bone since this is technically the media episode about this,
Mm-hmm.
or the fandom episode about this. um oh my gosh, I forgot her name. What's the main character's name?
Alina.
Alina, thank you. uh, did you just I have died once in this episode so far, and I've lost my brain, and I want both of those parts clipped anyway. um
Poor Landon. She's just a little out of practice. It's okay, y'all.
a lot of fun. Alina, Alina does her best and most growth the entirety of the show, when she is with and actively pursuing some sort of relationship with the general.
Mm-hmm. With
Um,
General Kerrigan. Yep.
Kerrigan, yes. Thank you. She grows. She is not pants, or she is not as much pants. There is potential for character development. And that is desperately what I want to see in every single character. I love the development that characters and the journey that things can go through, which is why I love torturing my characters.
You want to make them
And
go through something, right? You want to make them change.
I
They
want
shouldn't
to
be
make
the
them
same at the end.
feel.
Yeah.
They should have not only a different perspective after their character arc, but they should have a completely different set of morals. That is my rule. It's fine. Uh, but I want to make them feel. And typically, when you are shipping with a villain, that villain makes the protagonist question. It makes them question where they stand, what their morals are, and being able to do that provides growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, we talked about a little bit about some of this terminology in our villain episode, but just to refresh everybody here, when we're talking about a villain and a hero, it's usually like, a bad guy and a good guy, right? When we say antagonist and protagonist, what that means is the antagonist in the story is often trying to change the status quo, and the protagonist is trying to keep the status quo the same. So usually what that means is your protagonist is your hero and your antagonist is your villain. So I just want to recognize we know the difference, and we know that's not always right, but most of the time it is, right? So antagonists, usually villains, often represent a change in the status quo for your story, right? And so those of us that don't benefit from the status quo are going to identify more likely with the villain's beliefs and values, even if we don't agree with their methods, right? So, like, I think the Batman villains that Landon mentioned at the beginning are very clear in regards to this. Like, I'll take Poison Ivy, for example, because I know a little bit about her. She's an environmentalist, right? Like, she's here for the plants. She thinks we don't do enough for this planet, right? Now, does that mean that I think every decision that she makes in regards to this belief is like a good thing? No, but I also think we don't do enough for this planet, you know? And I get it. I get why she feels frustrated, because she has been put upon in her life and not really been recognized. And then she sees that we're doing the same thing to the planet that society has done to her. And so this is her feeling, right?
Yeah.
Jane, she's also hot.
So hot. Uh,
So when you have characters like these antagonists that are against the status quo, and you're kind of like, well, I'm kind of against the status quo too. Like, maybe I wouldn't murder somebody for some plants, but like, I kind of get it. You know what I mean? So it makes it so much easier for the girls, the gays, and the theys, I guess you can say, to connect with these antagonists, because they tend to be more likely to have our values.
yeah. And yeah, they question society. They
Mm-hmm.
question like what needs to change, whereas typically in the traditional story arc of how media is presented, the before was fine. The before was fine unless the before was fine unless the before is like an uprising. So if we're taking out apocalyptic uh like genre, the before was fine, something happens to make it not fine, and so now the character has to go through this thing of defeating the person who is questioning what was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Most people also realize that the before wasn't fine. But that is, so like it is just your interpretation and how you read it and what you relate to, is so basically repeating what you were saying. But yeah,
Yes, yes. No, but exactly.
but it
Exactly.
but there's a lot of people who will not realize that the before wasn't fine. That
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh, this world is great, like it's good, life's happy, everyone's fed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, actually no.
Yeah, like, if
uh
you ever tried to talk to somebody that, that's older, that has a good job, that was able to retire, about like what the economy is like right now, and even though it's getting better, like the pandemic has kind of put this into light for a lot of people, but there's still a good number of people out there that really think that we can solve our problems with young people just buying less Starbucks and then they'd have money. Obviously that's not going to happen, but this is the reason, right? Like, if you are the person that the world has basically worked out for, then it's very simple for you. It's very simple for you to not identify with the antagonists, right?
But I also think that like what is a good, I think storytelling has developed to the point that we want to connect to our antagonists because I think it makes us connect to the protagonist when
Mm-hmm.
they start questioning the antagonist.
Yep.
When they start sitting there and being like, well, maybe like, oh, Katniss Everdeen. I know that this is not a ship, but we're gonna go with it anyway. Katniss like sitting there and understanding that, hey, she understands to an extent what not President Snow, President Coin, who is in the later series, who comes in and is taking over as president. She understands President Coin's perspective and gets and understands like, hey, wants to punish the people who have punished them for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it like that questioning kept me as a reader interested because then all of a sudden there was growth happening with Katniss that she had to then make a decision. And in the end, spoiler alert, she ends up deciding that like Coin needs to die because Coin and Snow are the two sides of the same coin. But yes, basically like this idea of like really actually being able to connect and understand the antagonist better develops your protagonist
Yeah.
and makes a more interesting story.
I do love that part about Hunger Games, where you don't really, for the beginning of the book, you really don't understand Snow's motivation or anything like that. But then Coin comes along and it's like, oh, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah, like oh shit, and that
That's why.
there are people who sided with Coin, and there are
Yep.
people, and that would be a fun series to
Yeah, we should probably do that on media
we'll add it to
episodes.
our list. um, Woohoo! But yeah, no, I think that there's really the having a good villain is the corner mark of having a good story.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and then when you get two actors in movies and media, because I find that I typically ship villains and heroes within movies and TV shows more than I do naturally with books, although there are some books that are great. Because enemies to lovers is a fantastic trope.
Mm.
I think that it also has to do with the chemistry of two actors.
Yeah.
The chemistry and then the build up and being like, oh, I can misread the situation for tension as sexual tension because those two things look exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. And I want to go back to something that you mentioned just briefly, but I just want to expand on it a little bit. The other reason for why shipping villains, aside from just like sometimes it's for a lot of people it's easier to identify with antagonists, it's also about the taboo, which you mentioned, but I want to expand on that a little bit. Often our sexual and romantic fantasies are about the taboo, right? They're about what we're told we can't have. And that's just a weird, funny trick of human brains, you know? And so I just want to say with this, we have a whole episode about problematic shipping that if you are struggling with feelings about this, I encourage you to go watch that and then do some more research. But it's just how brains work, and don't worry about it. Everybody likes the stuff they're told not to like. It's just whatever flavor of taboo you're told that your brain latches onto, right? It doesn't mean anything. It's just natural for our carnal desires to be attached to something we're told is wrong. And brains are silly, and that's just what they do. So
Great
the other
story.
yeah, so the other big why is just because they're bad guys. And it's literally not deeper than that. It's just because they're the wrong thing. And so we're interested in it because they're the wrong thing. It's not that deep.
I mean, yeah, it's not that deep. Like what you like. Anyway,
Yeah, let's check
no.
on Malcolm. So he's stinky and hungry and really tired.
Oh,
And
good.
he's still
Slowly
okay on his
dying.
fun. He's having fun in his isolation box.
That's good.
So that's good.
It's nice to know that he enjoys dying.
Yeah. I don't think he's gonna die this episode, but
Villain.
hopefully.
Damn
he
it.
He'll get close to it. Maybe he'll die next week.
I no, I think what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, taboo again. Like, and also there's our brains, like, I don't know. I think that there's something fun to also explore the unexplored. And if something is taboo, the chances of you having explored that before in your writing, in your watching, in your fantasizing, like even if it's not even fantasizing about your life, but like possibilities for characters, um, there's like a newness to it, which is fun. There's so few things in the world that are new, that when you discover that, it's like this really fun opportunity. Which is what like
Yeah.
I experienced when we did Rabbi. When I started writing Rebastion, it was like this opening up of sitting there and being like, oh, I don't have to have a character that has to color in the lines. I can push those lines. And so then I got to also discover boundaries, and the boundaries that I liked as a writer, but also boundaries within different characters. I got to explore a new depth because I was willing to take the morality of this character and twist it, and make it so that the lines weren't the boundaries. I was able to discover new ones. And then being able to ship, and that relationship did the same way, that this certain relationship didn't have to be like, they meet, they fall in love, they get married, they have children. That all happened.
They did.
That is their plot.
But they also killed a lot of people along the way.
And each other almost a few times.
Very close to it.
and again, it was like those, oh, this is the path that I want to take, this is the story I want to do. But then I got to like sit there and be like, I can ignore those lines. And I can still do that directional path, but I get to ignore the lines. I get to color outside of it and discover new boundaries. And as someone who enjoys writing that, to become a better writer of it, I wanted to be a better, you need to get more information, and the best way to do that is reading and consuming. So then I started reading about villains and watching them and enjoying them even more than I had previously enjoyed them, and it kind of just fed itself. And then I discovered I discovered Harley Quinn and the Joker, and I was like, this is everything I want in a writing dynamic. And then that's it. That's where I've ended.
They may have murdered many people, but have you seen how jacked they are?
Honestly, really good looking couple. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, Jane, I love this comment. Okay, I have to read it because I think this really applies to us as role players. I think that's been the most annoying part of playing Arthur, is that he's so hot, people like him automatically, no matter how egregious I make his backstory or current actions. Looking forward to him being an asshole in the future and people recognizing it. It's almost like real life, you know? If you're super rich or super hot, you can get away with all kinds of shit. Thank you so much for the follow, 117 Gug. Happy to have you here.
Oh my god. No, yeah, I mean, I think we've all experienced that problem, unfortunately. The person I experienced the problems with most for that was actually Phoebe.
Yeah.
Because she's a young woman. In any of her renditions, she tends to be a young woman who seems to be taken advantage by an abusive asshole.
So everybody wants to come save her.
Therefore isn't responsible for any of the torture, murder, and multiple other sins that she has
okay, so can I just explain this a little bit? So there have been multiple occasions where Phoebe has literally been the main villain, the one that's done the most bad, the one that's killed the most people, the one that's committed the most crimes, whatever, depending on the flavor of the RP. And people have been like, oh, this other character, male, always male. This other character who's a male, he is the bad guy that's done the most bad that I hate the most.
My favorite.
But because Phoebe is usually like a 17, 18, 19-year-old girl, she's uwu soft and just needs some saving. She's always beautiful, right? But she's uwu soft and just needs saving, right?
It's hard, but like. But then, of course, Hollywood uses that, right? Because that's an RP problem, but it's also a Hollywood problem. We're talking about how hot villains are, and they're attractive. And because they are hot and attractive, they are allowed to do worse things. Actually,
Mhm.
this is a weird thing that happened in the Harry Potter fandom recently. I'm going on a tangent. I'm so sorry, but it's important. There's TikTok RPs where TikTokers dress up and cosplay as Harry Potter characters, and this one this one very popular TikToker dressed up as Peter Pettigrew, and people literally said that if Peter had been as attractive as this person was, they would have hated him less. Which is mind blowing that it literally is. Oh, if this villain was more good looking, uh, his crimes of betrayal and killing people would have been fine.
It does. So, is he one of the characters? Because you're gonna have to refresh my memory. Is he actually described as ugly in the books, or is he
He's
just
described as
like?
rat-like, which is great.
Okay, yeah. So he is. That's book, not just movie. Sometimes because they're all mixed up in my head. Sometimes I can't
No,
remember
no,
if
no, no.
things are movie only or not.
No, he is. I mean, I think he was. I think that there was an interesting director's choice to uh to make him actually look like he was stuck as a rat and very rat-like. But I think as a boy, he is described as being pudgy and bigger and slower and have rat-like features.
Okay. All right. Well, that is what it is. In Malcolm update, he has now pissed himself, so that's wonderful. And look, he just fell asleep.
And
He's not long for
fell
this
asleep,
world.
slow fall into passing out.
He is
um,
not long for this world, but it's okay. We used up the last of his PTO.
yeah, we love that for him. So yeah, no, I think that it is a systemic problem, but it's also like why it's fun to ship villains, because if those villains hadn't been attractive, no one's shipping, like people are shipping people with Dracula, no one's shipping anyone to Nosferatu, right? Like, you know,
Exactly.
the handsome one that likes to suck your blood and not the one that like turns off the light switch. Um, that's all I know that character from. Yeah, it's part of it.
Yep. Yep. It's definitely part of
Good
it.
on you, Hollywood.
Oh boy.
But yeah, no, I think that Shadow of Bone does an amazing example of Alina and Kerrigan as far as being a villain ship. That you have a villain who wants to change the world and will do anything to do that.
hmm
And at least in the first half, you have a
He just wants a
protagonist.
better world for his oppressed people. I mean, I get it.
I get it.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the second half, or in the first half, Alina agrees with him. She wants it
hmm
too. He's his vision. And then once the reveal is made that he's actually a terrible human being, then she loses body autonomy and autonomy because he forces like body horror on her. And that's when things like change for
hmm
her. But up until that point, it made sense because even though we knew he was the villain because he was obviously the villain,
hmm
um,
I mean, he's played by Barnes and he controls shadows. Like, come on.
yeah, you're gonna tell me that this rich, powerful man who is entirely good looking and comes in just as the love interest that is the real love interest disappears isn't the villain? Fuck you, Hollywood. Anyway, um, no, I think that they did it perfectly right for what it was supposed to be. I was trying to think of other villain romances that are canon, and I was having a very difficult time. Batman and Catwoman
Yep.
were one that came to mind, which is again fascinating. However, okay, so this is the other thing too, that these roles are reversed here, and that's because of sexism. Whereas
Uh-huh.
Batman never questions his morality when meeting Catwoman. Catwoman, who is the villain, is forced to question her morality in order to be with him.
hmm
Um, and that's just again like if the roles had been reversed, if it had been Catwoman was the hero and Batman was the villain, it would have been a very different story because I do believe that then she would have still been questioning her morals, but it would be questioning her morals to be evil.
hmm hmm Yep. I think that most of the time, other than the one you just mentioned with Batman and Catwoman, most of the time when we're talking about these villain ships, they're not canon, they're fanon, right?
Yeah.
The only kind of group that I can really think of where a lot of this stuff is canon is one in romance novels, right? There's
Yep.
a lot of those. Those are a dime a dozen, right? And CW shows, right? So it's
Oh,
really
yeah. I suppose
media that is,
Caroline should be on that list. Yeah, you're
yeah, and
right.
and Delana ends up being canon, and
Paul Damon a villain. He was a villain for about 3.2 seconds.
you know what, it still counts. I'm just saying, it's more than anything else. So really, a lot of this, the time that it's canon, is laser focused on things that are targeted to women. It's not really in your typical media. So we're talking about CW shows. Yes, so when I say CW shows, I'm talking about things like Vampire Diaries and all of its spin-offs, the
Supergirl.
Flashverse, the Arrowverse, I guess is what it's called. Supernatural, like I mean, the boys get with, well, Sam in particular gets with monster girls all the freaking time that they end up having to kill. I mean, so yeah, CW shows, those though it happens there.
And it's targeted to women because women like bad boys.
Well, I mean, yes, but also it's a little bit deeper
No!
than.
Women, yeah, I mean, and I said this before too. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Hmm.
cut
No, you're
you off.
good.
But no, I think that there is also this inherent like want for a man who is willing to burn down the world to get what he wants and also burn down the world to protect you, which is typically how those villain romances are
Hmm.
portrayed. So it's not
Yeah.
even like a villain, it's just like I want a person who is passionate about what he wants and will fuck everybody but me over.
And I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think that a lot of these things, we're retelling Beauty and the Beast over and over and over. Like we're delivering a story that deals with the feelings that for a lot of women it is difficult to find an equal partner. That a lot of times in our relationships we because most relationships aren't completely totally equal, right? There's always a little bit of hierarchy there. And
Always.
usually in a straight relationship, women are not the top, right? They are below on the hierarchy. So I think in a lot of these things, we are channeling that truth in society, and we're dealing with those emotions in that society and things like that. So that's where a lot of this comes from. And what? If your man is going to be above you, at least you're his entire world, and he's dedicated solely to you, right? And which is what happens in a lot of
Well,
these
and
villain
then also
romances.
there's a
So,
sense of control there.
hmm,
Because if he's willing to burn down the world for everyone but you, that means he'll listen to you.
yeah,
And that means that maybe, just maybe, even though it seems like he is the one in charge, he's not.
hmm.
And that I think speaks societally to where women are. My cat is trying to go out the window. Sorry. I
Let
was
me
like,
be
please don't
free,
jump.
Mom.
Please don't jump.
Let me be
We're the
free.
second story. Please don't fucking jump. Uh,
The kittens, by the way, they're sleeping soundly on the bed. They have decided not to rampage this stream, so that's been nice.
yeah. So I think that there's also an interesting society thing to say about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're expressing a lot of feelings and frustrations in those
Well,
sorts of things.
well then like let's if you're ready to talk about it, let's talk about how society reacts to us liking villain stuff.
Oh my god. Landon, you know what that means, that I'm
Good
gonna bitch
reaction.
about I'm gonna bitch about aunties again. Are you ready?
I'm
Are
ready
you
for it.
ready?
I am. Hold
Okay.
on, let me prepare myself.
Okay. Okay. So if you're on the Twitters, then there's a lot of teenagers and young 20 somethings that think if you ship villains, it means you are a villain in real life. Like they really truly believe this. We have a whole episode where we talk about aunties, and we share a case study of a friend of ours that had an encounter with befriending someone that turned out to be an auntie. It's a wild ride. go watch that. But yeah, in general, I feel like it's something that we don't talk about, and in spaces where you do talk about it, you're ridiculed in a way, unless you find like-minded people. Like it's very annoying to say like this is my preference and this is what I think is interesting, and then somebody say, well, what does that say about you? It doesn't say anything. It just says what I find interesting, right? Like it's like saying, oh, I don't like broccoli. I don't eat broccoli. What does that say about you? Nothing. It doesn't say anything about you. It just means you don't like broccoli. You know what I mean? Like, it's so freaking silly. So, shipping is weird to begin with, right? People that aren't in fandom do not understand it. And then when you want to ship things that are taboo, such as like an enemies to lovers or shipping the villain and the hero and things like that, you get the extra layer where some people that do understand shipping are going to act like you're a weirdo, right? So that's been my experience with it.
Yes. Ugh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ready? I'm about to
I'm ready.
tangent.
Go.
The way media portrays love traditionally is that this person before you is supposed to be the most important thing on the planet. That they are your day, your moon, your night, your sun, your everything. And that is how love is supposed to feel. And that is how time and time again we are told what love is by media. And because of that, we also, I mean, you also see it in the world portrayed that way via Instagram and other social medias and watching couples hang out, and you assume those things, right? Even though we know that that's not true. One person can't complete you. People aren't puzzle pieces. Also, like friends are important. Anyway, tangent. So it is surprising to me that when we gravitate towards somebody or a character that literally embodies that is, I will destroy the world except for you because you are the most important thing, which villains and those sort of romances tend to have that sort of style. Why society and aunties then get on our ass for like being attracted to that, because that is what we're told we should be attracted to.
Amazing.
So like, fuck you aunties. Fuck you media for telling us that that's what love is. And also villains are awesome. This is what I got.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100% agree. Like it's just it's complicated, right? It's complicated
Yes.
and it's made more complicated with the messages that we are sent constantly. And it doesn't get any easier. Is that aunties as in auntie or auntie? Oh, we're saying auntie, ANTI. And in the aunties episode um we go through a history of the word and what it means. And so if you're not familiar, go watch that. It will explain to you everything about what exactly we're talking about. And then once you know the word for it, you'll start noticing it in a bunch of fandom spaces. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it like even exists not in fandom related stuff.
Yes, like the other word that you see a lot, Puritans.
Yeah.
Fandom didn't come up with that. Science fiction and fantasy authors that are not in fandom came up with that because they started noticing the same thing, and their word they came up with was Puritan.
Well, and it's also it is a subclass version of, and we talked about this, but basically a cancel culture like effect.
Mm-hmm.
And like people that really just want to celebrate cancel culture basically. So yeah, no, it's very strange.
Yeah, very, very strange. Yes, Jane, these people are real. They're not just bots on the
No.
internet. It
And
is
I mean,
it
if
is
you haven't
real.
listened to that episode, we have Sasha on who talks about their experience with like basically being canceled and
Yeah.
basically like witch hunted and everything like that too. It's
Mm-hmm.
a really powerful episode. I think
Yep.
it's 2 parts. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely would recommend. Um, but yeah, no, it's really hard. And then of course you have like, and it doesn't start and end with aunties. Again, to bring it back to Caroline, the showrunner was so angry that fans enjoyed this ship that, by the way, they set up. It was canon and was going to be canon. And the fact that like the showrunner got so angry that it was like, how could you ever ship this person with a murderer? Not like every other person had killed people on that show, but that's fine. Julie Plec is her name. I was trying to search for her name.
That was so strange. That was so strange.
That like, so it's like this idea of not only aunties on the internet, but there's also a media like focus of being like, why would you do this? Why you're bad for doing this thing that we are literally setting you up to do.
And I blame the internet. I blame the internet because this happened with Caroline. This also happened with what was the ship name? That was Regina, I think that was her name, and then Emma Swan in Once Upon a Time. Swan Queen. It also happened with Swan Queen, where a bunch of the people that worked on the show were like really rude to Swan Queen shippers. Because so I blame social media because this is what happens. These like hardcore shippers, they get on social media and they at and DM the people that work on the show asking for their ship to be canon, and these people like don't understand fandom and shipping culture. So by the way, y'all, stop freaking talking to creators about fandom and shipping culture. They don't get it. And they didn't know how to take this, and a lot of these creatives would get so annoyed with the shipping culture that they would just be like, you know, you're bad for liking this, which is wrong. Like, that's the wrong take. But just FYI, when Julie Plec did that, like, it didn't come from nowhere. It's because Clareliners wouldn't get the fuck out of her mentions. But still, she did say those things. It was like, you wanted this.
But again, it is very much like that thing of, you made this thing. Yes, I mean, and I get it. Internet is overwhelming, especially if you haven't had internet fame before. Especially if you're super proud of other things to do with that project. Like if someone like really like, I have experience where everybody really likes one piece of art that I've written, really likes one poem, and I'm like, but all of the other poems are so good too. Stop talking about this one. I get it. Like even on a small scale, that's very overwhelming. So I understand where it comes from, but at the same time, it's very much like that thing that curriculum said, is it's like, you're enjoying this thing that I've created, you're awful and should feel awful. It's like, okay, stop. And this has happened, and this is also a thing that happened before internet was popularized. I mean, Buffy and Spike were a thing. From Buffy.
Love me some Spuffy. I'm here for it.
Buffy, also a ship I shipped. There are so many times where it's like that. It's enemies to lovers specifically different than villain and hero ships, because you do need that archetype like villain and or antagonist, but it still exists. So it's like, it's just, this has been happening forever on a multitude of different genres. And why people want to make people feel bad about it,
I don't either, because you know,
we discussed it, but
because here's the best villain ship, right? Persephone and Hades. Like, Persephone becomes a badass bitch because she decides to go get with Hades, right? You know, I mean, we can't help it. This is just how our brains work. Yeah. It's just being human.
It's just being human. And if it's not your thing, it's fine. It doesn't have to be your thing. But for someone else, but just because it's someone else's thing doesn't mean that they're a bad person.
Yep. And again, we have a whole episode about problematic shipping. I know there's a couple episodes I plugged during this, but that one we talk about our views and like why it's okay and it doesn't matter and you're not a bad person if you like this kind of stuff.
You're not. You're normal.
You're totally normal.
All right.
So I know we got started a little bit late. So we're going to go a little bit longer, FYI, guys, but we are getting towards the end of the episode. Well, sorry, Landon, I think I just cut you off.
No, you're good. I was basically going to say the same thing, where I was like, let's talk about some ships we like. Let's hear about some ships from you guys in the chat about what ships you like. Let's do like another 7 minutes of that, and then we'll read a good news article and wrap this up.
Okay. All right. So Malcolm didn't quite die yet, but he's not doing too hot. So, you know, hopefully next episode he will die. All right. Claraline obviously is a big fave, a big fave.
Do we want
Love
to
it.
talk about like the implements of these things, or are we just saying names?
No, we can explain what Claraline is. Give us a quick plot rundown of what Claraline is
Oh,
and why it's loved.
original vampire slash werewolf, villain to all, kills everybody, sees a blonde baby vampire and goes, "You're pretty," and then just simps over her.
Pretty much. I mean, Klaus, he doesn't like anybody. He's
No.
nobody's friend. He doesn't care about nothing or anybody. He barely likes his siblings. Um, and then he sees Caroline and he's like, "Hard
Oh,
eyes.
he's
You're
like,
so
"Oh,
beautiful."
let me sketch things for you and buy
And
you gifts,
yes,
and
buy you a
also
pretty dress.
and also have your boyfriend bite you so you almost die, and then my blood saves your life."
Oh my
Um,
god.
love that for them. But yeah, no,
Mhm.
it's CW, but he is the big bad. And while because it is an ensemble cast, Claraline can be considered one of the protagonists. She is not the main protagonist.
No.
Um, but it is an ensemble class, so she does count as a hero, and he was the big bad of that or of the previous half season, and then continues to be pretty bad the rest of the time he's on the show.
Yeah, pretty much in season in I think he comes in season 2, right?
He comes
Or
in
season
very end of season 2.
very end of season 2. Yeah, he comes in at the very end of season 2. He's clearly a big threat. He's a huge threat during season 3, and then in season 4 he's kind of sort of a threat in certain parts.
Yeah. So
So
that's a
he's a
good,
big villain.
he's a great villain. That's a good enemies to lovers. That's what Rab was based off of Klaus and Abby and Caroline share some tastes.
Yes.
Um, and then again, if we're gonna stick to the Vampire Diaries, Delena, as you mentioned earlier, even though
Mm.
I would like to argue that Damon is a villain for about 2.5 seconds, he
You're gonna crush his spirit. Don't let him hear you say that.
listen, emo boy. She's, do Frodo and Sam count? They aren't enemies. They aren't villains. Anyway, sorry, Katie, just saw that. I had to say something.
Katie, that's a great ship, but I don't think it's relevant to what we're talking about today.
Best friends. We'll talk about best friends at some point.
Yeah, we should.
But so many things adding to the list this episode.
Mm-hmm.
No, but then I think so. Lena.
Wait. Suki and Eric. Did you ever watch True Blood?
That's such a
Jane, my heart.
nice.
Yes.
Good one, Jane. Oh, Jasmine and Jafar. Fuck yes.
Mm-hmm,
Persephone
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
Hades, although a part of me is like, was that villain? Was Hades ever the villain, or he was just like banished to the underworld? But it's fine.
Poor Hades. He's just a geek
He's
trying to do
literally
his job.
just a simp over his wife. That's literally all Hades does. He's like, I will protect everyone still after they die, and also simp over my wife. And his wife is
Zuko
like,
and Katara.
Yes,
Zuko and Katara. Great example.
That's a good one.
Not canon, but
the
good
biggest
ship.
villain from Lord of the Ring series. Zuko and Katara is a good one.
Yeah.
If anyone needs a book recommendation, do I have it here? I don't fucking have it right here.
It's in another room.
It is in the other room. It's fine. The A Court of Thorns and Roses has it's Beauty and the Beast-esque. But there is a huge ship that is the villain, but it's not the Beast. It's a different character. The villain and hero. It's fantastic. 10 out of 10. That's actually probably got two villain. There's two of them. Same girl, two villains, and hero romances. It's actually quite impressive.
Nice. I know that's one you want us to read at some point because you love it so much.
I'm making you read the fairy porn.
Okay, we're gonna read fairy porn at some point. Lucifer and Detective Decker. Yes.
That's a great one. I would also
yes.
die for Zuko. He fits my tall blonde daddy issues, even though he's not blonde, and he's probably not that tall.
He's blonde in spirit. He needs the same vibe.
Listen, if there was such thing as coated blonde, Zuko would be coated blonde. Sorry,
yes.
that was probably an insensitive thing to say because of how serious coding is, but that's fine.
We're live.
Okay, but Katie, was Frodo, sorry, my train is going by, it's ending right now. Katie, was Frodo like selfish, or was that just the ring's power? That's the question I have for you. Big
I mean,
Daddy
I'm not.
issue.
I think it's. I mean, it's a valid ship. You're
Oh,
not
it's a good
wrong,
ship.
Katie.
No, it's
Yeah.
a great ship. I just was more saying like that was more of a Lord of the Rings conversation that doesn't happen here. We're losing it. Anyway, what's another one
All
that
of
I
these
like?
are wonderful.
These are all
Anything for
wonderful.
me, anything that's like Hades and Persephone flavored or Beauty and the Beast flavored, like I'm gonna be all about it. I'm gonna be all about it. And if it has that kind of flavor, like yes, I'm here. It's good.
Dark Lena did a great job with
Yes. Oh my
that.
god, Dark Lena is such a good Hades and Persephone ship. So good. Because I still stand by Darkling is right. In years when the dude, I forgot his name because he's so boring, when he excuse me, when he's gone, the Kerrigan will still be there. So
Uh, Jane, yes.
Mal.
Read more. Spuffy is a great series, is a great villain
Mm-hmm.
and hero relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Joker and Batman. Batman and Catwoman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hell,
All
hey,
good.
we'll go Joker and Harley Quinn, even though we don't see Harley much as the hero. Uh, Still gotta love it. Still gotta
Yep.
call it out. Um, yeah, I think that they're so in line with enemies to lovers that it's just fun. No one that doesn't. I want to. Yeah, I get you, curriculum. I got you, but that's also like that takes away all the fun.
Is it still Joker and Harley if it's
It's
healthy?
not. That's what I was gonna say. I was
I
gonna
feel
be
like that's
like,
another ship.
I'm like,
That
that's that would
I
it
don't
would
know.
be
I think
amazing. I don't even know what it would look like because I don't know. The Joker is inherently unhealthy. I don't know what the Joker would be like without being, Joker like.
yeah, I feel like it would take quite a change to Joker's character for it to do a healthy version of Joker and Harley. I don't think Harley would have to change that much. But I think Joker would have to change quite a lot.
Although, if you would like to read a really great fan fiction from Joker and Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn, not Harley Quinn, is a fantastic book. But it's not a book because it can't be published. So would recommend it. It actually is a healthy version of them.
Oh,
Um,
well there you go.
we love it. I mean, they're not good people. They're villains, but they're not abusive assholes to each other.
They're not good. They're not bad to each other, right? That's what we're
Yeah,
saying.
they're
Okay,
yeah. It's like trying to justify it.
fair.
Um,
All
I'm
right. Are we
yeah.
ready for the good
There's
news
so
article?
many. Let's do the good news article.
Okay, let me save the game while you get that going.
We love
All
it.
right, so Malcolm didn't quite die, but he's in his box, so don't worry. He will be dead soon. So that those points will be well spent, and then we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait until we can kill off another sim because we'll be down to just Landon and the two kids, and so we won't have anybody that's eligible to die.
Love that for us.
All right, I'm switch
All
back
right.
to webcams for a second while I get this closed and get Chrome up. So bear with me just a moment, y'all. Okie dokie.
Sorry, there's a really loud train going by, so I'm gonna close my window.
Okay, go for it. All right. Scientists studying crows get another surprise. They're so smart they understand the concept of zero.
I just wanted
What?
to post this because I feel we'll eventually be overthrown by crows. Crows and dolphins are really coming for us.
I mean,
Uh,
crows are really smart. Like they can
they're
like recognize faces. They
yeah,
know who has been nice and mean to them in the past.
yeah,
They constantly are like doing social activities together. Crows are crazy.
yeah. And as it says here, right now, like in teaching, I understood this. Like I read this and I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. Because zero, while it seems like in concept one of the easier things to comprehend mathematically. It's actually one of the hardest because it's not nothing. It's basically represents nothing, but it's a placeholder, and it's really complicated to like understand that and to even teach it. And so the
Mm-hmm.
fact that crows know it is insane.
Mm-hmm. Like, because you have to teach it to a person. Like, humans don't
Yeah.
inherently understand zero. They have to be taught the concept of zero. So, the fact that a crow can figure it out, like, that's pretty crazy.
No, and it's really, really, really cool. And yes, curriculum crows are terrifying. And if you have to call a group of a murder, that you know, like they're just the villains of the animal kingdom, even though they're misunderstood. It's fine. The real hero to villain love story here is my love for crows. Um, anyway, sorry, just
No, I
needed that.
love this. This is awesome. This is
Uh,
awesome. I love the concepts of different animal intelligences. Like, just something that I've been thinking about. This is totally unrelated, but just a thought that's been crossing my mind lately. Like, you notice how after Coco passed away, they don't really study like ape trying to learn human languages anymore. It's because they never could, right? Spoilers. That Coco never really signed. She wasn't doing that. Anyways, there's really fun papers on that if you're interested. But it makes me think about this idea of like we are constantly trying to have animals learn and communicate in the way that humans do, instead of recognizing the amazing diversity with which they communicate. And so when we learn these various things about how some animals can do this, that, and the other, like it's just wild. It just makes me really think like that. Human intelligence isn't superior. It's just human. Like that doesn't mean crow intelligence is superior to other animals. It's just suited for what crows need to do to live. And apparently, to live, they need to understand the concept of zero, which is freaking amazing.
or they like they maybe not even need to live, but that they have the ability, like they have such high complex thinking that
Yes.
their brain is ready to accept that, because like
Yeah.
we as humans don't need to understand the concept of zero to live.
No, but because we need to do so many other complicated things, we can't. You're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because of
Because we need
now
to.
as a society, our brain is capable of making these like assumptions and
Hmm.
things like that. It's not something that we inherently know, just kind of like reading. Humans don't inherently know how to read, we have to teach how to read.
Hmm.
um, but our brains are able to adapt to that and able to learn that and able to do that. And crows are the same way, that they're able to learn how to understand the concept of zero.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense because crows also have really complex social structures and hierarchies and things like that, like humans do. Like
Yeah.
ours are really complicated, and crows are as well. Yeah,
And it's
queer coded birds. You got it.
you love them, queer coded birds. um yeah, so
Bingo.
it's a really fascinating article that talks about like the importance and what zero is, and the counting crows thought, because us testing the ability to for crows to count isn't a new thing. It's been happening since the 20th century BCE. Like
Hmm.
it's like it, or not 20th century, like second century BCE. Like it is really insane um how how long it is that we've been kind of training or studying crows. And they're great.
Yeah, so I want
Would
to read
recommend.
this quote. I want to read this quote at the bottom of the article. So this is basically the bottom line of the whole thing. This research suggests that the neural foundations that allow sensory consciousness arose either before the emergence of mammals or independently in at least the avian lineage, and do not necessarily require a cerebral cortex. So you don't need your cerebral cortex to count. Interesting.
No, it's real cool. And crows are cool, and like you said, that they are just so smart and sympathetic, and animals, like that they understand like who's been nice to them, who hasn't been nice to them, what nice even looks like they have, like it's not just feeding, right?
Hmm.
It's also things like favors. Like they will bring
Yeah.
you stuff. Crows will bring you things if they like you, which I think is
Hmm.
ultimate thing.
Yeah, they understand the value of giving kitsch to each other
Yeah,
as a form as a gesture of kindness.
of friendship. Like they develop friendship, and it's really cool. And I
Yep.
agree with you. I agree with like that. Learning that how other animals communicate over the last 20 years has been fascinating.
Yeah.
Like my favorite are, I mentioned them before, dolphins, but also like orca whales, which is a subspecies of dolphin, actually, not whale. Fun fact.
Yeah.
And how they communicate and speak literally different languages in different parts of the world. That like different families speak different languages, and that's just so cool.
Hmm. I love this comment from curriculum. My fiance's grandmother has or grandfather, sorry, my fiance's grandfather has made positive relationships with the crows in his backyard by feeding them peanuts in the morning, but now he has to upkeep, otherwise fear the crows' wrath. Oh my gosh.
Well, as soon as just know that your fiance's grandfather sounds cool as fuck.
Hmm.
But also hopefully that they're bringing him stuff in return, because crows are notorious for doing that. They're notorious for
Hmm.
being like, here is a shiny thing.
I hope he
Be my
gets good
friend.
crow gifts.
Crows love languages are gifts.
Yep.
Who knew?
All right, guys. Let's switch it back to the webcam only. Also, so I'll be big so I can show you guys. Look who just came to visit. Oh, little lady. She
Oh my
says hi, everybody.
gracious.
She'll do her
So
dance for you.
big.
Hey, little lady. Oh, 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 oh. Open kitten style.
Oh
I do
my
this to her all the time. She's so tolerant.
oh my god, I love it so much. This is everything I needed.
Oh my gosh. All right,
All
y'all.
right.
Landon, where can everybody find you?
Oh, I have a thing now.
Oh, you have a thing. You have a thing? Show us the thing.
Hold on. Is it exclamation first? It is.
Yeah, you have to do an exclamation first.
I should have been prepared. Nope, that's not it.
Yeah, no, no space, no space.
Ah, man, I'm failing, guys.
You almost have it. There we go.
Hell yeah, that's right there. I'm also gonna drop something else too. I found out some news on Monday, which is good news, great news. But I found out, so the history of how what I'm supposed to be doing next year as a job has changed significantly this summer. I was hired to teach social studies. I was going to teach social studies and math, and now I'm teaching ELA, which is great and fun, but it also means that I am responsible for three people's or three classes books and recommendations. And because the school system in general is crappy, I don't have any funding for my class library. So I figured, instead, I have an Amazon list on there, but I figured I would also drop this opportunity that if you would like to fund a sixth grade classroom books, I would really appreciate it. And I'm going to just drop that list in there. No pressure at all. If they're, again, it's whatever, but if there was a book that you really loved and it was on this list, I know a lot of students would appreciate it. So I'm just going to put that in there.
I started reading Dragonlance, I think, in the 6th grade.
Fun. Thanks.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, so
Thank you so much, Landon.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So if y'all are interested in helping with that, helping some kids out, please do so. All right. So here's where you can find me. Of course, right here on Twitch also, and on YouTube. Oh no, hang on. Sorry, kitten wants to eat some vinegar. That's not good. Okay. Sorry. Um so right here on Twitch, of course, is one of the places that you can find me. We have Interstage Window every Saturday, and next Saturday we're going to be talking about habits that kill your role play. So we're going to be talking about
Yeah.
things that we think, like thought processes and repeated behaviors that really mess with the whole process of a collaborative writing activity. And we're going to be playing some more Sims too, so come tune in to see Malcolm die, probably.
Thank
hopefully
God.
hopefully Simland is not too sad about it. I'm sure the kids are going to be sad, but hopefully Landon's bounces back pretty well. We'll
Oh,
see.
she will. She needs to find another man with a trust fund. So
Okay, sounds good. We can work on that. Also, I stream on Thursdays. All these times are Eastern. That's 6:30 on Thursdays. That's my stream. That's kind of a little bit of whatever I want, a little bit more casual, a little bit more hangout. We're playing through Final Fantasy X right now. We're in the end game part, I'm going around trying to get all the celestial weapons. Next week, I'm going to be doing the butterfly mini games. So if you want to see me fail over and over and get real frustrated, come to that because I couldn't find a mod that would help me beat it, and it's really hard. So that's all the main places you can find me. You see all the links that I just posted. I do everything like every other content creator does. Nothing special or crazy here. Y'all know how it works. All right,
We're
Landon, anything else before I find somebody to raid?
I don't think so. I think that
Okay.
that's it. Other than it's great to be back, even though it was a little silly this last half.
I like the silliness though, it's fun. I think Too Broke to Croak is my fave sim moment today. Glad we got it started. Yeah.
That's so fucking hysterical.
True.
Love your rest of your have a great rest of your day too, curriculum. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, we absolutely will. Okay, we're gonna raid Wabsit. He's a friend of mine. Thank you so much for the applause, Katie. Now Landon can live another week. We're gonna raid Wabsit. He's one of my friends. It looks like he stepped away. Wow, indeed, curriculum. Very well. It looks like he stepped away for a second, but it's still going, and he's playing marbles. So you can exclamation play marbles before he comes back and get that started. He's on an 8-hour Microsoft Flight Sim trip going across the U.S. So you can
Sweet.
enjoy all of that.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
don't forget to be awesome.
Yeah, and don't forget to make it a great day, guys. All right. Bye, y'all. See you on
Bye.
Thursday or next week, whichever I see you. Okay. Bye, guys.